everyone, welcome back. Today is Singapore Noodles. So we've got a lovely recipe for you. Really quick, really easy, full of delicious flavours and a great alternative to a Friday night takeaway. So I'm just going to talk you through the ingredients that we're going to use today. So to start with, I'll start in this corner over here, we've got soy sauce, sesame oil, Chinese 5-spice. Then we've got some curry powder. This is just one chicken breast that's been marinating in some sesame oil, soy sauce, ginger, garlic, and a little bit of the Chinese 5-spice. And then over in this corner, some lovely fine egg noodles. We've got some spring onions, red onion, red and yellow peppers, some mushrooms, ginger, and garlic. And I'll just show you how to prepare everything. So we're just going to get everything ready. Again, we like to do what's called our mise en place. So get everything ready and then we can start cooking later. So I'm just going to start off by slicing the mushrooms. So you want to use your sort of claw and then just do nice thin slices of the mushroom. We can put that in one corner. And then we're going to do the next thing, which will be our peppers. So with the peppers, just simply cut off the edges of the pepper so you go all the way around, just avoiding the seeds. So cut down and then you can scoop out that little bit there. And then all we want to do is put it skin side down. Just be careful because it will rock a little bit, and then just do nice thin strips of the red pepper. And again, put that just to one side. You want to keep all of the vegetables separate because they will be going into the pan at different times. So have it all nicely arranged on your chopping board, and then I'll show you what to do later. Then we're going to do the same thing with the yellow pepper. So both of these have got really nice sort of sweet flavour, but I just love the look of it. The colours are just so beautiful. And I think if we can, let's try and get our food to look sort of beautiful at every stage of the cooking process. It's also recommended that we eat the rainbow. So this is a really great one for doing that because we've got all sorts of lovely colours going on. The next thing that we're going to do is the red onion this time. So we've got the root end and the tail ends. The root end being the sort of slightly hairy end. Normally when we're dicing it, we'd suggest to keep this on, but because we're slicing it, you can take both ends off. So the best way of doing it is by just using that bridge technique. So holding the onion nice and firm, put the knife through the tunnel of the bridge and just press down nice and firmly. So you get two halves, and then you can just lop off both ends and put those to one side, and then just take off one layer of the skin so that you've got a nice amount of onion underneath and it's all nice and shiny. If it ever looks a bit dull, just take off an extra layer because sometimes it can be quite tough. And then we're just going to very simply, using that claw again, just do a nice slice of the onion. If you do want to peel your ginger, you can just use a spoon and just drag the spoon down the ginger like this, and that's just going to take off the skin. But today I'm just going to grate it because I find that it's much easier to do it with a grater. And actually, if you've given the skin a nice bit of a wash, then it's only going to add a bit of fibre, which is brilliant. So just using a grater, we're just going to grate the ginger. This gives this beautiful aromatic flavour, and hopefully when you're doing it, you'll smell just absolutely amazing. Scrape off all of that bit and you'll notice how much juice comes out of it. It's an amazing thing. Ginger's a brilliant ingredient. It just adds so much. And it's very, very good for you as well. So we've got two more ingredients left to do. We've got our garlic and our spring onions. So for the garlic, we're going to just do our sort of standard crushing. So you want to take the woody end off the garlic and then just give it a good old whack. Take out off the skin and then just roughly chop it like so. And then you can use that sort of mashing motion like that. So the ginger and the garlic can go together because they're going in at the same time. So you can put those next to each other like so. What I like to do is put the spring onion running vertically on the board, your knife at an angle, and then if you chop it, you're going to get these lovely sort of shapes, which will look really pretty sprinkled on the top of your stir fry. And we can also add a few of those in to soften down as well. So we've got all our vegetables done. And then the next thing that we have to do before we can get cooking is just to prepare the chicken. So when you're handling raw meat, it's really important to follow sort of standard hygiene rules. So do make sure you give your hands a very, very good wash before and after you've touched it. So I'm just going to take the chicken out of the marinade. And we're going to use that marinade, so don't chuck it away because that's going to be important for flavour a bit later. And we're going to just strip it into sort of bite-sized pieces. And so you want them sort of about that sort of size. Nice sort of quite thin, so that's going to cook really quickly. And just to touch on the chicken itself, this is a nice sort of free-range chicken. We always say sort of shop to the best standard that you can afford. And we sort of try and use free range as a sort of minimum, but whatever you sort of can stretch yourselves to. Let's get cooking. So we're going to turn the heat up on our sort of wok or frying pan, or sort of rounded edged thing, to really nice and hot. So about, this is 8 or 9, which is almost to its hottest setting. So really on the gas if you've got some. And then we're going to put in 2 tablespoons of sunflower oil into there and let that heat up. And then in the other saucepan here, I've just got some water, and that's just going to be ready for our noodles to cook in a minute as well. So the order that we're going to put everything in is, firstly we're going to put the mushrooms in. We're going to make sure they get really sort of nice and golden brown. Then we're going to put in the onions, and then the peppers, then we're going to put in the ginger and the garlic, and finally the spring onions. So this is nice and hot now, so I'm just going to add in the mushrooms. It's called a stir fry for a reason, so you want to make sure that you keep it on the move, because otherwise it will burn. So you can see the mushrooms are sort of cooking away, and they're getting that lovely sort of golden colour on that. That's really important. Can you see that there? So make sure all of the mushrooms are getting that sort of nice golden colour before you add the next ingredient, which will be the onions. Meanwhile, my water is bubbling for the noodles, so I'm going to add those in and cook them, I think for about sort of 3 to 4 minutes until they're sort of tender. And we're going to add those into the dish a little bit later. Do keep everything moving, and if it ever gets to a point where it starts to stick, we don't really want to add any more oil, so you can just add a splash of water just to sort of loosen it down a bit. Right, the mushrooms are looking absolutely perfect, really nice and golden. So in goes the red onions. Do be careful when you're putting things in, because it has got a tendency to spit a little bit, so just gently drop them in. And then just give those a nice mix up. You'll start to smell all the beautiful flavours, and that's what cooking's all about, using our senses, giving everything a good smell, using our ears to hear whether it's sizzling too much or not enough, and then our eyes, we've got all those lovely colours as well. So mushrooms are in, we've got the onions in, and then the next thing I'm going to put in is the chicken. So the chicken has gone in, and we just want to colour that off. Excuse the steam, it's very hard to film and cook at the same time. So get that going. You can see how it's just turning that sort of nice whitish colour. Because we've chopped it nice and thin, it won't take any time at all. But you do have to be careful with chicken, so do make sure that it's really nicely cooked through. Can you see all of that sort of stuff on the bottom there? So quite a few people will be worried that that's burning. That's just getting a nice bit of flavour. But like I said earlier, what you can do is just add a little bit of water just to lift that off. So in goes a little bit of water. Give that a good stir, and you can see it just lifts off all of that stuff on the bottom of there, which is all lovely flavour. So the chicken is looking about right, so you can see it's sort of almost cooked. And now I'm just going to add in the peppers. Look at those lovely colours. So I've just drained the noodles, they're going to be ready to go in. So just in the meantime, drizzle them with a little bit of sesame oil just to keep them from sticking together. And then when we're ready, we're going to add that into our vegetable and chicken mixture. And that is looking lovely. So this peppers are just softening down. You want to have a little bit of crunch, but it does need to cook down a little bit. So I'm just going to add a little touch more water just to loosen up the bottom of the dish. And then once that's lifted, I'm going to add in the curry powder and the Chinese 5 spice, and then finally I'm going to add in the ginger and the garlic. So that's looking exactly how I want it. So I'm just going to add in half a teaspoon of the Chinese 5 spice and a teaspoon of curry powder and give that a good mix up. So into the pan I've just added the spices, and then I've put the ginger, the garlic and some of the spring onions, probably about half of the spring onions. I like to save a few just for adding on the top a bit later. And then I'm going to add in the marinade from the chicken as well, and that's going to give it a lovely sauce. So that is looking and smelling so delicious. I'm just going to finish off with a tiny bit more soy sauce. We did add some when we added the rest of the marinade, but we just need a little bit more, probably another tablespoon's worth. And then give it a quick mix up. And we're going to add in the noodles, and then that's our dish done. So how quick and how easy was that? Dig in soon. So I've just popped in the noodles, and we just want to give that a really good stir through so that everything is sort of coated. And then we'll serve that with the sort of spring onions on the top, and that is delicious. So I'm just going to finish off with a little garnish of the spring onions on the top, so you can see all those lovely colours, and then just a little more drizzle of sesame oil on the top. The only thing left for it is to have a taste. Really delicious, and so simple and healthy and lovely. We hope you enjoy it as well. Do send us in your pictures, videos, what you think of the recipe. We love hearing from you, and well done to all of you that are cooking at home. It's such a wondrous thing to see, so well done and keep going.